Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So today I got something very special that you guys have requested me to make, and this is going to be one of the best beginner druid builds in the entire game for basically anyone that might be new to the Diablo series, or maybe your little brother or your significant other wants to get into Diablo. This is 100% the best build that I can recommend. It's super easy to play and it hits relatively hard, and more than likely it'll have relatively good survivability compared to realistically anything else in the game. So starting right off, let's go ahead and go over the skills and kind of how it plays. So how it plays is so simple. You don't really need to activate too many things. You don't have to activate other roars or anything. I made it as simple as possible for beginners. So pretty much all you try to do in the game is you activate your ultimate and you just keep on slamming and slamming it on the ground. So it's a Pulverize Druid build. Now, if you do want to activate the secondary pet abilities, you can do that on elite packs, or if there's a boss, it will give you a lot more crit, which can help out, because one thing that the Druid Pulverized Bear sometimes can suffer from is if the boss survives for too long and you're out of resource, it does kind of become annoying. We'll do gameplay of a Sigil 100, and we'll also show off the new Abattoir of Zir and how it performs in there as well. But it's a really good build, and it's going to be definitely something where I could say that you can squeeze out more damage, but you're going to have to lose out on some spirit regen or maybe some survivability. So again, the core idea with this build was to be as beginner friendly as possible while maintaining a huge amount of defenses. I mean, we're talking about getting our armor consistently at over 20,000 without really trying, and you're going to hit relatively hard. So let's go ahead and get started with the skills. So here's the skills that we're playing. So we're playing Maul. It just lets us stay in werebear form, and if we're really out of resource, that's kind of the idea. But you should have pretty much spammable DPS with infinite spirit. Now, you make sure that you want to hit something to still gain your spirit, though. Don't just infinitely slam into a wall and then say, well, I have no resource. Well, you have to actually hit targets in order for this to work. So it's pretty much going to be infinite resource. That's the whole goal with this. And then again, you are going to be spamming Pulverize consistently. That's basically what you do the whole time in the gameplay. Just keep on spamming Pulverize. And then the other three pet skills, you can activate these during bosses. Ideally, it's just really the Ravens as well as the Poison Creeper. The Wolves do give you extra fortification, and all these are all automated, being able to get extra crit. With the exception of the Vine Creeper, this needs to activate to get you the extra crit. But it's pretty much all automated, and that's the point of this build. Again, it's supposed to be super beginner friendly. And then you just activate Grizzly Rage. So you could pretty much just spam Pulverize the whole time, and if Grizzly Rage comes up, you just activate it, and then you just go back to slamming with Pulverize. So it's a very easy build to play. It's probably the easiest build in the entire game, hands down, to play. And it only really requires one aspect to become up and running, which is the shockwave aspect. After you get that, your build is going to be up online, and you're going to be hitting for lots of damage. Now, unfortunately, this thing does not drop off of anywhere except for a drop, so you can't do any of the dungeons to go ahead and unlock this aspect. But it is a pretty solid one once you get it up and running. And if you want to run it on a two-hander, it is possible. I wrote down a bunch of different notes for optional things like Tabalts, but you shouldn't really have any problems with resources with this build. So those are going to be the skills. Next up, as far as the spirit boons, so we're going to take the bread and butter, the wariness, so less damage from elites. Then we're going to run on Eagle, increase crit strike chance, as well as getting maximum life for more survivability. If you want to, you could get attack speed, crit strike damage. These are all great options as well. Eagle basically has the best out of all of them. Then under Wolf, we want to run Calamity, so we're going to extend the duration of Grizzly Rage. Oh, let me move this out of the way so you can see it can clear tier 100s, no problem. And obviously with the Abattoir of Zir getting nerfed, it's going to be able to clear Abattoir of Zir even higher now, because 100 in Abattoir of Zir, the Abattoir of Zir level 1 now is equivalent to about a tier 1, not 100 anymore, but it's a tier 90. And then we're running Obsidian Slam over here. So this is every 20th kill will cause our next Earth skill to overpower. So we're going to consistently get a bunch of overpowers. Now, in terms of the helmet slot, I'm going to show you guys the best of the best, and that's going to be a Harlequin Crest. Now, if you don't have it, can you run the build? Absolutely. In the notes, if no Shaco, you want to run a helm with life, spirit, cooldown reduction. You can get willpower, any other armor percents. Those are all great in the helmet slot. You can even get resistances, but I made this build super beginner friendly, so in most circumstances, you will have unlimited resources. Plus, on top of that, your resistances are pretty much going to be solved via the Paragon Board. Keep in mind you might have to level up the Paragon glyphs, so they give you the increased bonuses, and that will give you even more resistances and armor in certain areas. And then in the chest piece over here, Insatiable Fury, so that's going to give us extra armor while in Werebear form. You get extra damage reduction, more Werebear skills. It's great. And then for our gloves, Earth Sign Horror, so this converts our Pulverize into an Earth skill, which is helpful because that will actually slow down the targets. And on top of that, it will add these little tectonic spikes. Now, the tectonic spikes in the open world, which you guys are seeing right now, it's totally fine. It will actually kill stuff, but in actual gameplay, in like Sigil 100, Abattoir 0, it tickles. It doesn't do any good damage. So it's just used to convert to Earth. And then on our gloves, ideally, this is what we look for. We want Lucky Hit chance to restore primary resource, ranks of Pulverize, attack speed, crit strike chance. Then, Aspect of Disobedience in the pants, we want to look for maximum life, total armor one Werebear, total armor, dodge chance, you can get willpower, all those are great. For the boots, we want the Aspect of Quicksand. This allows, since our Pulverize now is an Earth skill, it's also now going to slow enemies. It doesn't really matter the roll on this, don't worry about it, just so it can activate. The higher the roll, better, but it doesn't really matter. Just want movement speed, spirit cost reduction, the rest doesn't really matter in terms of the stats. And then, as far as a weapon goes, now you can run a two-handed staff if you do want to, or you can run an axe. I actually prefer the axe because how it works is a lot of targets will die in one hit. Axe will give you more damage versus healthy targets. Now, even in what you're about to see right here, we're going to go do the Abattoir of Zir. This was taken before it actually got nerfed, so this is actually a much higher Sigil tier now, because now a Sigil 1 is way easier, but it's fine. It doesn't really matter. You can do higher sigils. You just have to level up the glyph. But as far as the aspect in here, we're running Rampaging Werebeast. Now, if you do run a two-handed staff, you do want to go ahead and throw your Shockwave aspect inside the two-hander. But I like running the axe because we can still get all of the stats that we would normally want, but we can also get that extra crit strike chance. We can get spirit cost reduction, resource generation, and this helps out running a one-handed versus a two-handed. And I tried to make it, again, have infinite resource, so it's very beginner-friendly to play because no one wants to sit there generating stuff. And so that's why I designed the build the way it is. And you can still see you'll hit for millions of damage. Even in Abattoir Zir, this is before it got nerfed, you can melt things very, very fast in Abattoir of Zir. So that's why I like this. Now, in terms of the difference, you miss out on about 9x multiplicative damage when you run this setup because you won't get that bonus to crowd controlled on the implicit with the staff, but it's fine. Again, the way that it's designed is to be as beginner-friendly as possible. And then for the amulet, Banner Sword Talisman is great, but any other amulet could totally be fine. You get extra movement speed, spirit cost reduction, any other plus to armor, defensive stats, offensive stats in the amulet. It's up to you. But what I really like with this is it lets you feel like you're hitting hard. When you see those like several million big number hits with this thing, man, when you hit over like 10 mil, it just is satisfying. Now, most of the stuff, depending on how high you're pushing, I mean, in Abattoir of Zir, things could have trillions of HP. Realistically, Bard might be the only class that can realistically do Sigil 25, at least as far as we're aware of right now. So don't expect to be on the same level as Barb. There's going to be realistically nothing that's on the same level. But for the most part, most people that are interested in maybe like more of a casual experience, this thing will just absolutely demolish and you're going to be one-shotting most of the things in the game. And then for our rings, the ideal thing that you want to try to get is crit strike chance and as well as damage to crowd control enemies, maximum life, resource generation. Those are all great. I'm running Shepherd's aspect, and how it should run is this is going to be a companion build, so all the companions kind of activate automatically. You get 10x damage for each active companion. We will have 2 wolves, we will have 3 ravens, and then we'll have 1 of the little vines. So there's nothing else that competes with this in terms of how much damage you get. You just have to equip all of the pets in order for this to be active. And then for the other ring, exactly same as the other one, but we're running Umbral. Since the aspect of Quicksand will then slow everything because it will count there, that's how we get a lot of resource and how we have basically infinite resource for the most part. You'll see our resource will just go right back up as long as we are hitting things. If we're slamming our, Pulverize into a wall, well, it's not going to do damage. And on top of that, obviously, it's not going to be able to give us that resource. Then for our offhand, this is where I personally prefer the offhand versus a two-handed. So I already mentioned the resource gen and try to make it as friendly as possible. We want the shockwave aspect. It doesn't really matter where you put it. Now, you could get 100x additional, it's 100% more damage with shockwave, again, if you run two-handed, but the resource gen, top of getting that primary resource, and that really helps out on the bosses. And the little like thing from the Ursine Horde, those can actually proc because it counts as basically pulverize again. So it really helps out getting those extra like lucky hit chances to restore for the bosses, because sometimes on bosses, again, when you run out of resource, it kind of sucks. And so this really helps out trying to prevent that. But getting 7.5, trying to get your crit strike chance on this is kind of the ideal goal, because you're going to be able to get more damage, because you're losing out a lot of damage if Banished Lord just doesn't crit. That's a huge amount of damage that you get from the overpowers on this thing. And if you want to run in the gems, you can run rubies, it's totally fine. But yeah, rubies, emeralds, those are all great. And then diamonds for the jewelry. For the armor, I just want rubies. And then here's what we're running for Vampiric Powers, because it's a little bit different. So we're running the Blood Boil, so this is going to give us extra overpower. Prey on the Weak, a Curse Touch, Sanguine Brace, Feed the Coven actually works because our companions will then restore extra resource, and on top of that, it's going to increase our damage. If you want to replace any of them, there's not really anyone in here that I would say, oh, you absolutely need to run. Other than having Blood Boil definitely makes the build feel a lot stronger. But as far as Ravenous goes, I want to say Ravenous might be one that you can skip on this build, because Druid's not a build where you're consistently slamming attacks again and again, with the exception of maybe the boss. And ideally, you can get away without running Ravenous in this build. Usually I'm like, okay, Ravenous is the best thing in every single build, but this is the one build where like you just attack once or twice, you move on. It's not like you're consistently needing to be there. So I decided it was much better without it, as I really want to try to prioritize getting those crits, and this helps out. And on top of that, we're going to get extra fortification real easy with this. There's a bunch of notes here, and feel free to read them if you were like, oh, I kind of want to swap things here and there. Now that we went over the gear, let's go ahead and go over the skill tree now. So as far as the skill tree goes, so we're going to put 3 points in the very beginning. We just got increased radius of maul, then some more damage over here, obviously maxing out pulverize. And then getting some extra resistance over here. And then we're going to be getting this wolf, so we get fortification over here, the extra 20% crit. This one just naturally gives us the extra crits over here. Now we get 2 additional ravens over here to attack. And yeah, ravens are great because it will also give you the ability to have 8% additional crit strike chance against enemies for 6 seconds after they've been hit. So this is really good for the bosses. Just gives you 8% extra crit. And there's not really anything else that's like that's better than a perfectly rolled ring in the game. So I don't like running trample or any of the other things. Again, I made this build as simple as possible because I got requested to make like a build that is good for beginners, and this is by far the easiest build in the entire game for beginners. And again, don't expect to see like the best build in terms of like pushing sigil tiers with this, because this is specifically designed. In fact, there's no competition with anything other than Barbarian. I just have to like stress that really early on here. The point of this build is, again, supposed to be as easy as possible. Then we put Grizzly Rage in, max out that, and then Ursine Strength over here. Now, for the Paragon board. So, starting right off, we're going to be running Exploit in the starter board, and then we're going to go up to Ancestral Guidance, and we're going to throw Fang and Claw. I know it says 30 out of 40 here, but there is 40 points. It's just that there's a bug for this one, just doesn't register on it. You can see that this is 10, this is 10, there's another 10 over here, and another 10. Should be 40, but there's a glitch over there. And then so that is where Ancestral Guidance is, and then we go over to Survival Instincts, and this is where we put in our Tears of Blood. This is the best one. It gives you 270 plus multiplicative damage. Once it's 200, basically you're just going to get to 50, but that's what we put in over there. And then we're actually going to go back over here because it's important in the order, because you want this bonus to crowd controlled enemies. Okay, so we're going to go, and then we're going to go into Earthen Devastation, and we're going to put Dominate in here, or you put whatever other one that you want. It's up to you on this glyph. This is kind of one of the more flexible ones. We want to make sure we also get the Earthen Devastation one. And then we're going to get in our final board over here, we're going to get the Inner Beast, and we're going to put Werebear in here. And that's going to round off the Paragon board, and again, everything will be linked down below. But yeah, have some fun with this, guys. Maybe this will be a good build if you want your maybe little brother wants to play the game or get into it, or someone else that maybe hasn't played Diablo before. This build is by a long shot the easiest thing, and it's because it's so dang tanky, because, well, the amount of survivability you get on Werebear is so dang strong. Especially with this, you get the extra 20% damage reduction, and you get massive amounts of damage. And the build is relatively fun. Like, they have like an ultimate, so they can feel like they're, you know, powered up, and you get insane amount of damage with this. And again, look at the amount of like life and armor that you can pull off with this build. It is so dang tanky, and that's the point of the whole build, is to be the most beginner friendly. This is the best druid build for basically anyone that wants to kind of hop in and check out Diablo. But that's gonna wrap things up. If you guys enjoyed it, drop a like on it. New, subscribe to the bell to see more, action RPGs, and more gaming content. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace!